Morning, guys. Needless to say, we just want to make sure for everybody that's able to see this. I know a lot of people are without power, but our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers. People are hurting out there right now, and nobody understands that better than we do. So, all we can do is our part, and for everybody that's participating, everybody that's doing their part, every little bit is going to help all the people that were affected by this. So, a couple of things I wanted to share with you. Saturday. From day one, the minute the storm hit, we got on the phone with the Red Cross to talk about relief efforts, things we can participate in. So what we'll be doing on Saturday for the Army game is the Red Cross will be here, and they'll be collecting cash donations throughout the day, prior to the game, during the game, after the game, to benefit the relief. And the other thing is our fans should know if they want to donate at any time, they can't physically be here at the game. Red Cross has set up a great deal with text messaging. You can text the word Red Cross to 90999 anytime to make a donation. And what the Red Cross is doing right now, the people we've talked to, I don't think you can understand the volume that they're dealing with and the people that are hurting that they're dealing with. So really important for our fans to come out on Saturday to participate in this. And, even if you can pull $1 out of your pocket, if everybody that attends the game on Saturday can donate something to this effort, it's going to help a lot of people that need a lot right now. Student athletes, Kyle mentioned it. With the bye week, a lot of student athletes went home, especially football, went home to their communities and helped and did some stuff which was outstanding. Friday afternoon, I know that the football players could have gone home for the weekend. They don't get a lot of time off. I drove by the Werblin Center and I saw a touch football game going on the lawn with our players and the evacuees that were in the shelter at Werblin, which I thought was outstanding. And then tomorrow, our Student Athlete Advisory Committee and I and a couple of staffers will be taking vans full of supplies down to the Jersey Shore to some locations where they're really in great need right now. So appreciate what our student athletes are doing to step up as well. And then the last thing, this logo, which you guys have all been handed. Drew Robinson, Jason Baum, our staff, they put this logo together really to something that we could put out through social media to inspire people. It's just something we wanted to put out there to give people hope. And quite frankly, I don't think there's a better way to describe the people in New Jersey. This is about trying to encourage people, but it's also about the fact that New Jersey people are tough people. The spirit in the state, I've never left this state. The spirit in the state is unlike anywhere else you'll see in the country. So, needless to say, that went viral pretty quickly. I'm seeing it everywhere. I think some people have even homemade their own T-shirts with this thing. But we've partnered with some people on campus, and T-shirts are being printed as we speak. And the T-shirts will be available for sale for $15, and all the proceeds will go to the relief efforts for the Sandy victims. And there's a variety of ways that people can get them. First is our friends at Scarlet Fever have partnered with us on this. There'll be a physical location to purchase the shirt in downtown New Brunswick. They'll be available later in the week. Friday at the Rack, men's basketball plays St. Peter's at 7:30. The T-shirts will be available for sale there. Student groups, once they're available, will be on campus all week, selling them wherever they can. And then Saturday at the game, obviously, they'll be available for sale. And for people that are displaced or fans, we have fans all over the country, they can call our ticket office and purchase them through the ticket office as well. But again, something that our guys did a great job designing to give people hope and turned into something that we can help to generate even more relief money to help people that really need it right now. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them, guys.
Tim, what kind of motivated you to do all these steps to help the hurricane victims?
It wasn't me, it was really the whole place. The minute it started to hit, I was hunkered down up at my house in New Jersey, and like Kyle, thankfully my family was affected with power outages, and that's not a big deal given what people are facing. But the number of text messages and phone calls I got from student athletes and coaches and our administrators in the university, and this is the great part of being in charge of this scale of an operation, because we have the access to so many people that can help in a more effective and direct way than anybody. But when I tell you that I heard from kids on every team, coaches from everywhere, everybody trying to figure out a way to participate, kids scheduling around classes and practices tomorrow, load up vans with me and Sean Tucker and get stuff down to Union Beach and some other areas down the Jersey Shore that really need it right now. This was not a me thing, this was an art thing.
Tim, the donations at the game on Saturday, does that include like food and stuff like
No, it's just cash donations at the game on Saturday, Brian. What we wanted to make sure of is that we could do something that could we could get quickly and easily to the Red Cross. I mean, the Red Cross will be the ones collecting on Saturday, it won't be us. But that's how we were advised by the Red Cross to handle this. And then I think what we'll do, I mean, this is not the type of thing we're going to do one thing and move on. We're going to try to do some things along the way here, which might include in the future, you know, some collection. I mean, Will Gilkison, you guys all know Gilk, our Director of Football Operations. His hometown in Union Beach has just really been decimated by this. You know, his office is filling up with supplies. He's taking stuff down there every day. I mean, those are the types of things that all of our people are doing, both independently as part of it.
Morning. Our athletic director, Tim Pernetti, is here, and he's going to be available here at the podium afterwards to speak a little bit about some of the relief efforts and some of the ways that we're trying to get involved to be a part of the solution, you know, with what's happened here in our local areas due to the hurricane. What I have brought to the podium here is our helmet, and we try to do this, and we've done it. We did it last year for the first time, and now we're fortunate to do it again when we're playing Army. And really, this is just our way of honoring, you know, all the men and women around the world that serve our country and protect our country, you know, the entire year. So, you know, we're excited to do it, and hopefully the people around the world who get a chance to see the game, you know, they will draw some pride from it the way we have. And with that, you know, talk about the game with Army. I think one of the things I could say to you, I worked on a staff one time with somebody who had worked at the United States Military Academy, and we were getting ready to play one of the academies, and I was just asking him about the lifestyle and the type of player in the program, and he said something very insightful, and I've never forgotten it since when playing these type of games. And what he said was, what you have to remember is that for those players at West Point, football practice is the easiest part of their day. And when you put it in that perspective, I think you find out in a hurry exactly what you're in for, and you really can throw the records out the window when you play an academy, and I think that showed up last week in their game versus Air Force. I don't know how many people who aren't familiar with academies would have expected that outcome, but it certainly was no surprise to me. You can expect to be in a battle, a very tough-fought battle, for the duration of the game, regardless of how that game goes, and you're always going to get an extremely spirited effort, you know, from their football team, and they're a very well-coached football team. Coach Ellison does a tremendous job, and I think they've gotten a little bit better. I think sometimes, you know, records don't always show that, but I think every year he's been there, their team's gotten a little bit harder to play against, and you see it on offense. If we start there, you know, they're an option attack. They're the #1 rushing offense in the country. You know, they have 2 players on their offense that average over 100 yards a game, and another one that averages over 70 yards a game. You know, they have a quarterback in number 8 who is the only player in the history of Army football to throw for 2,000 yards and rush for 2,000 yards in his career. And you think about all the great Army football teams over the years and all the great players that have gone through there. To hold that distinction tells you exactly what type of player he is, and he's another senior quarterback. And senior quarterbacks are always tough to play against because you're not going to rattle them. There's not many things you're going to be able to throw at them that they haven't seen before. And he does an excellent job running their offense. They're athletic up front on the offensive line. They're not as big as the traditional offenses that we see week in, week out, but they do a great job of getting on your legs. And that is going to be one of the keys to the game for us on defense, is staying on our feet. You know, they have goals that they go into. I mean, when you talk to people who run this offense at the college level, you know, they have goals that they go into every game in terms of how many times they can knock the opponent down. And that is really how they create their big plays, which is really the last thing I would say about their offense. If you really look at how their offense has success and the drives that their offense has that ultimately lead to touchdowns, you see that generally there is a big play, an explosive run in those drives. And I don't know that that's unique to the option, but it certainly is. It holds true even more for an offense that's as determined to run the football as they are. And then on defense, they're a very well-coached defense, and they're very difficult to play. And just like their offense, it is the only time of the year that you have to game plan against this scheme. And that is a unique challenge for the players and the coaches in your program. You know, they do that to you on offense with the option. They're the only option team we'll see all year. And on defense with their Desert Swarm defense, it's the only time of year, and there's very little carryover to the other defenses that you see. So it'll be a unique game plan, something specifically for them, and they do a great job running to the football. They play with a lot of strong safety, will linebacker body types on their defense, and the one thing you see is just tremendous effort and tremendous swarm to the football, and they get a lot of hats there, and they've got some good defensive line, but they're going to give you different looks up front. They're going to give you different pressures, different line stunts, and we're going to have to do a great job of making sure that we execute the plays one level at a time. And in the run game, that means you better execute the first level blocks before you rush to the second level, to the third level. And in the passing game, we got to make sure that we protect well, before we can worry about getting guys out in routes and throwing the ball down the field, et cetera. Because if you don't block the first level in the run game and you don't protect well, it's going to be very hard to move the ball against this defense. And with that, I would open it for questions.
Kyle, can you just talk about how the team and the program just dealt with the emotions of last week, the hurricane, and then how you dealt with everything?
I thought from a program standpoint, the players and the coaches handled it about as well as we could. And I said this to the team last week. We were distracted as a program, but distracted for all the right reasons. There were a lot of things going on in our local areas here in New Jersey and in New York that were much more important than a football practice. But with that said, there were certain things that were out of our control, so we did practice for a certain period of time during the day, and then when we had time later in the week, we had players going back into their communities and here on campus and trying to help in whatever way they could. But I think when we came back yesterday, it was a very focused group and a very good start to our game week.
Kyle, are last year's numbers by Army rushing, 54 for 228, considered a defensive success?
I think when you talk about success against the option teams, what you're trying to do is limit them to less than 3.5 yards a carry. Because if you don't, they're going to get first downs. And I think that's really how I think defensive coaches would judge it. And then the other thing I would say is this. There's really only two ways to stop this offense. One is to limit them to under 3.5 yards a carry and make them punt. And the other one is to get them to turn the ball over. And I think you'll find also in some of the games where people had success against them defensively, the turnovers were a part of that. And because of all the ball handling that goes into running this offense, there are going to be opportunities for turnovers in the game, and we got to make sure we capitalize on them.
In that vein, though, is it also important to get a lead? It changes at least alters a little bit of what they want to do, right? If you build a double-digit lead, for example.
Correct. I think that's the way to say it. I think as long as they feel like they're within striking distance, they don't really change their personality. But if you're fortunate enough to get them in a situation where they have to throw it, that's not something that they are proficient at, because it's just not what they believe in.
What does the kicking situation look like now?
For us, the kicking situation has not changed. Kyle has started to kick field goals live, so to speak, but he's not 100% right now, and if he's not 100%, I don't know that he'll be our starter on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see. He did a little bit yesterday. It'll be interesting to see how he feels today, and then get him out there tomorrow in practice and see him kick. He hasn't kicked with a rush yet, but he has kicked with live timing and live speed. So he's one step closer to where it's probably one more step he's got to take before I would put him in a game.
Kyle, missing a day of the bye week because of the storm, and then you also missing that day later in the week. Did you get everything out of the bye week that you had hoped with a little bit of a shortened week?
I think we got out of the bye week what we needed to get out of it. And I think you have plans, and then you have things that happen in life that are more important than your plans. And I think that's what happened last week. So I don't have any concerns about anything that we may have missed last week. I think when we came back yesterday, our players were in a very good place, and our staff was very prepared for the game week, and we were able to get a little bit of a jump on this game plan that we normally wouldn't have had we played on Saturday.
Kyle, how did people within the program get by with the hurricane and everything? Everybody okay? Families, stuff like that?
We were fortunate here locally, if I just deal with the coaches' families and the players here on campus and the ones that live off campus, we were very fortunate that there wasn't any devastation. There were certainly things that happened and power outages, and we had a number of families, including my own, that were out of power for a while. Mine personally came back late Friday, so we were able to get everything up and running, Friday evening and into the weekend. I know some coaches we have a couple people in the program that are still dealing with power outages, but for the most part, we're in pretty good shape. I think we still had 3 players when we came back yesterday that were dealing with power outages, and we've done some things to make their situation better. So we were very fortunate compared to all the other things that were going on around the state and in the area.
Regardless of putting the respect that your team has aside for Army players, do you think your defensive players enjoy playing the triple option?
I think they do. I think they really embrace the challenge of it, and it's a different scheme of defense that we have to play when we see an option attack. But we've been playing this defense against this offense for a number of years now, and I know that the players who've done it before, the Scott Vallones and the Steve Baharnises, et cetera, they really take pride in their ability to change gears for a week and get this game plan mastered as best we can, and then accept the challenge of stopping the #1 rushing offense in the country.
How has Gary been able to bounce back from his last performance?
I think it's no different than coming back out after you have a great performance. When you throw for touchdowns in the second half versus Temple, or you have a good game versus a team like Arkansas, or you don't play as well as you do versus Kent, you have to examine it. You have to examine the things that didn't go right. Why didn't they go right? Examine the things that did go right, because there were certainly things in that game that did go right for him. Why did they go right? Make the corrections, but then the critical part is make the corrections and then move on. Because again, this team, new defense, new players, different matchups, different scheme. It's a completely different animal. So you have to learn from your mistakes, because those situations are going to come up again at some point. But at the same time, you got to be able to shift gears and start to learn a new game plan.
How much did this weekend affect you guys recruiting? Because I know you like to go out on bye weeks, and how did that go?
It changed a couple of our plans. What we were able to do, without getting into the specifics of the schools and the players, we had originally planned to go out and see games, and most of the games in the area were canceled, with few exceptions. So for the most part, we were able to get out and see some practices. There were some teams locally that were practicing, so that was how we used the time.
Kyle, are you able to practice today, or will you just start your prep tomorrow?
Well, what we do on these weeks is we practice on Sunday. Now, when we're coming off a game, that practice is generally pretty light. But because we're coming off a bye week, we did more of a traditional type practice last night in the stadium. The players are off on Monday because this is the traditional day that they're off in a game week when we play on Saturdays, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll practice with a normal Tuesday.
And the focus was good from everything?
I was very pleased, and I had said that before we left. I said that it's important that they get away, it's important that they get with their families and do whatever they can do at home in their communities, and then when we come back on Sunday, it's going to be critical that we are a focused football team and getting back into the business of being 1-0. Because even though we're in the last of our 3-4 game seasons, the only thing we can control this week is trying to be 1-0 versus Army.